Hi everyone. So this would be your very first video of how to work with alcohol inks. Something you all have been waiting for. It is the first video for you to enjoy and learn more about alcohol inks. So I'm going to talk about what all do you need to get started. So you don't need much initially. You can opt for any brand of alcohol inks. I have used all the different brands and they all work fine. So don't worry about which brand you have initially. Just go for any brand. I have Nara inks here, Pinata, DIY for you, Ranger inks, Copic inks. So whichever are accessible to you, just get those. Now the metallic ink is slightly complex. I use Pinata brass or octopus fluids. This one. These are the ones that I use usually for metallic. These are among the best inks that are available. Not all the gold inks work alike. So it would be, difficult for you to choose. So don't, experiment with other brands. Just go for Pinata brass or octopus fluids rich gold rush. So apart from the inks, you would need alcohol or blending solution. Now, I personally don't use blending solution, but because each brand has a different kind of blending solution, the quality differs, and it has some kind of additives that make the ink thicker when you're playing with them. So I don't prefer that kind of thickness of the ink. So I don't use this at all for any of the techniques that I work with. I usually buy 99% isopropyl alcohol. So it comes in this or larger size bottle like this, and then I transfer them to these smaller bottles or slightly bigger ones like these. Easier to work with once you transfer them into dropper bottles because they have a nozzle at the top. So slightly easier to work with. Apart from that, you would need some kind of a surface to work on. When you'll watch all the other videos, you will get the options of the different kind of surfaces that you can work on, like ceramic tiles, acrylic, or boards. But I personally work always on paper, so that's why I've taken out these swatch cards by Nara or synthetic paper by Nara or Beyond Inks. So there are either Yupo paper or synthetic papers. When it comes to papers, you can choose whichever one you find comfortable. I personally use synthetic sheets because they are less prone to staining and they work really well for all kinds of techniques. Apart from that, you would need some kind of a blowing tool when you are starting out. People usually use straws, but I don't recommend using a straw because you inhale a lot of fumes when working with a straw. I would not recommend that. That's why I use this kind of a blowing tool. It's called a lens blower. So when you squeeze it, a little bit of air comes out from the top, and it's a nice easy tool to push the inks around initially when you're just experimenting. I also use a few synthetic hair paint brushes and a palette just in case I want to take out the inks and do something with them. And then comes the dryer, which I know all of you keep asking about. So initially when we start working with the inks, we feel really worried if the pressure of the dryer is too much, it goes out of control. So I recommend getting a simple travel hair dryer. This one is given in my Amazon list. It's a very easy to use tool, very lightweight, has a small opening at the top, and it's an unbranded one. It has, on Amazon you will find it under many brands, and this is actually the cheapest one that you can get. So you can of course watch the video about the drying tools that I use, but to get started you can easily use only just this one dryer for all the techniques. And last but not the least, you have to be ready for any mishaps. So always wear these kind of gloves. so that your hands are protected, because ink stains are kind of difficult to get out. They will eventually get out on their own in a few days, but once they go in your nail beds and all, it becomes slightly difficult to get them out. And a 3M air purify, respirator mask. So this is the one that I use when I'm working on bigger pieces, or generally spilling a lot of alcohol. So get something like this. More information about these things are there on my blog, so you can check them out. Alright, so let's get started. What is the first thing that you need to do when you get your new inks and you're really excited? What am I gonna do with it? The first thing that I recommend you to do is to create swatches of your inks. So look at these swatches. These are all the inks that I own, and earlier I used to make one swatch for one ink, but now the collection is growing, so I don't want to keep doing that. So I make multiple swatches on one sheet these days. So this gives you a very good idea of how the ink will look once it is diluted, once it is reactivated. Is it leaving any stain on the paper? Is the ink very sticky or difficult to move? So the first step that you're gonna do is to make swatches of all the inks that you own. Now when you start, when you already have the swatches, you can decide that it is easier to see the colors, to create color combinations. Just like this, like in this one, I have created the color combinations to check this matches with this one, and similarly, 3 colors here and here. So this helps me in deciding which colors to choose. In this, we have used like 2 or 3 inks together to figure out the color combinations. So do this with all the inks that you own and create swatches and keep them with you. It makes it very, very easy to understand which colors to buy next and so on. So that was about my swatches. Now, how do you make the swatches? So I use swatch cards by Nara Papers. You can also ask them for any specific sizes that you want, like some of the swatch cards that I have are small squares, so I ask them for a specific cut shape. So you can ask them for your customized shape, or you can simply use the swatch cards that they already have. Once you have the swatch card, all you need to do is take any ink that you have, the new ink that you bought. It is very difficult to see what color it would be once it comes out on the paper. Just put a drop of ink anywhere on the paper, and then put a drop of alcohol on top of it. Okay, so like I've put like 3 to 4 drops of alcohol on top of it, and I'm just swirling it around, not doing much. You can use your tool to blow the ink like this. See? When you're practicing blowing with this tool, remember not to push too hard, otherwise you will get those offshoots and lines happening. So practice blowing with it in such a way that those lines do not form. Just simply dry your ink like this with this tool. Just blow some air onto it, and that's it. That's how you can make swatches of all the colors that you have, and you don't have to do too much. Just see how the light and dark shades of the ink look. So I'll just dry it quickly. So easy to make a swatch. It is still a little wet here. I will just let it dry naturally. You can even make swatches with your dryer once you're more comfortable with making swatches with the dryer. For that, again, the process is the same. You just put a drop of ink, 1 or 2 drops of alcohol on top of it, and then just take your dryer around it in circle like this. In the coming videos, I will show you how to use the dryer, so don't worry if you're not comfortable right now. So just take the dryer around it like this and dry the ink. So you will see how the ink looks under different circumstances, like when you dry with the air drying tool and when you dry with the dryer. What you can also attempt is reactivating the inks. So at some place you can just reactivate a part of your ink like this. So by reactivating I mean I will just put a few drops of alcohol, no extra ink is needed, and then just twirl your paper around and let the ink flow into that alcohol. As you will notice, this is a synthetic paper, so there is no staining underneath. But if you will do the same thing on a Yupo paper, you will see the initial drops of inks where you had put that. So I recommend using synthetic paper so you don't have to worry about staining. So do you notice all that I'm doing is just twirling the paper and letting the ink get reactivated. And it is almost dry, so I'm just going to use my dryer a bit to dry it. So you see how it looks once you reactivate it and let it become slightly lighter. So that's how you make the swatches. Once you make the swatch, you use a pen and write the name of the ink along with the any observation that you make. So for example, this is Pinata, Havana Brown. So if you have any observation that the ink is sticky, it is thick, or it has some sediment, or when it is reactivated it leaves a stain, so those kind of things you can do at the back, and also make a note of the date when you made the swatch. That will help you keep a check on how the ink is fading over a period of time. So that will help you understand the level of fading of certain colors. So that's how you can get started with inks, and in the next video I will show you the basic ways of playing with your inks. So see you in the next video.